What is up, everybody? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. This is the Blue Root Pod. Missed opportunities, out of sync offenses, drop passes. No, this is not a podcast about the Philadelphia Eagles tonight. We are here to talk Temple football versus Buffalo. Let's start off by introducing our guest. He is Jake Hyman. Follow him on Twitter at RealJakeHyman. How you doing, man?
Doing, Chris. How you been doing, man?
I'm telling you, man, that was the absolute worst football weekend in a long time for me. You had Temple leading up to the Philadelphia Eagles game against the Detroit Lions. Dude, I'm reeling. I'm struggling. I'm a lot better than yesterday, that's for sure. But this is a Blue Root therapy session. Am I wrong?
This past week it was very what's it called? The errors were very prevalent in this past week. Let's say that.
It was just back to back to back. Temple came into Buffalo riding high after a huge win versus number 21 Maryland. We talked about this on the preview pod. Could this be a potential trap game versus Buffalo? Unfortunately, what plagued the team through the last two games reared its ugly head. Poor special teams, inability to convert third downs, a loss of a very key player on defense ultimately led to a 38-22 Temple loss. It was a quicksand kind of game for our Temple Owls. Everything that could have went wrong, it went wrong, man. Jake, just in general, lead us off. What the heck went wrong with our Temple Owls?
Yeah, I was reading during the telecast, and you said that everything went downhill after Sean Bradley had that unnecessary roughness penalty targeting, who was ejected from the game. And yeah, it was about that time. Anthony Russo starts off 7 for 8, and they get sacked. You have the botched snap. That's the second one in the past 2 weeks. We have a new player coming in at long snapper. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Isaiah Wright drops the ball for a potential first down. Russo has a fumble, and it just goes into a snowball effect from there. Everything just... Temple was leading 7-0, and that was the only lead they had the entire game. 10-7, 17-10, 24-7, 31-7. At the 6:46 mark in the third quarter. And like I said, the issues were really prevalent. Drop passes, special teams, Russo's timing, Russo's accuracy. Temple could not stop Jared Patterson on the ground. They had trouble defending first down and second down because Buffalo, they are looking for the second and short, the third and short, so they can, once they get those first and second down plays, they can have a manageable third down. And Buffalo stuck with their game plan offensively and played a hell of a game defensively.
And you nailed it right there, man. My first takeaway from this Temple loss was Temple's inability to stop the run. Just when they look so dynamic, getting in front of Anthony McFarland of Maryland, not at all did I expect Temple to struggle versus Buffalo. That Sean Bradley ejection just seemingly squeezed all the life out of the Temple Owls. I mean, after the first quarter, Temple was just abused by Buffalo's offensive line, which was the strength of that team. So it was just Buffalo had 217 yards of offense on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns. Temple had 31 yards on the ground. That is just, I never expected that to happen. What happened with Temple's inability to stop the run? I mean, we know about Sean Bradley. He's the heart and soul of that Temple defense. But I mean, I didn't hear Ifeanyi Maje's name all game.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened?
The first 2 weeks, Ifeanyi Maje really had a lot of pressure in the backfield. Quincy Roche picked up his first sack last week. I think you talked about it. Temple's defensive line was getting completely on the field, 5 against 4, the Buffalo offensive line was driving forward. You even saw them pushing Kevin Marks Jr. into the end zone. They looked like they had more effort, and they played better. And once they established that run, their offensive line just simply outmatched the Owls. Because especially in a read option, when you're giving the ball a lot to running back, Matt Myers scored a rushing touchdown, but their ability to just go to the second, like I said before, 2nd and 5, third and 3, those manageable downs, Temple was really abhorrent when it came to third down conversions, while Buffalo was able to establish drives and go lengthy drives. And you saw that disparity among the two teams.
And what I was another piece of this, just to piggyback off Temple's inability to stop the run, was the read option, man. Like, you looked at Temple versus Maryland. Yeah. Maryland thrives.
Yeah.
Maryland thrives in the read option. They handled it beautifully. They stood in front and contained Josh Jackson all game long. Not an ounce of me expected Matt Myers to handily to handle the Temple defense and the Temple D-line. It was just a shocking development as the game kind of progressed. My next takeaway from this game was Temple's inability to convert on third down, and we saw this a lot versus Maryland. They were great in the first game versus Bucknell, but for whatever reason, just Temple cannot figure out how to convert on third down versus Buffalo. Check this stat, man. In the game, if you included the game from 2018 versus Buffalo, Temple is now 5 of 30 on third down versus Buffalo.
And they're against Maryland, they're 3 and 14, and Buffalo they're 2 for 16. So they are 5 for 30 in their last 2 games as well.
Man, missed throws, drops on crucial downs. Can't
the
control
one play where Jalen Blue, he almost had that first down. He ended up going the opposite way, and then Temple, I think, was 4th and 1. The Rooster throws the pivot route, and they don't convert. So it gives Buffalo another option in Temple's territory. You need to have sustainable drives. Going for 16, man, you put pressure on the special teams, and we know Temple's special teams in the past 2 weeks have been a disaster.
Yep. And special teams. What happened with special teams, man?
So we have a change at long snapper now. Ronald Gaines is the starting, according to Rod Carey. Ronald Gaines is now the starting long snapper. Takes over for Cole Lurch. I think what they're looking for is somebody to get the ball to Adam Berry so he can efficiently get the ball off. I mean, if you bounce snaps to the kicker, that's on the long snapper. I mean, you can't expect the kicker to pick up those caroms and effectively get the job done. So maybe that's the answer. But this team, through 3 games, special teams is not on. It's definitely not their strong suit.
It's not good enough, man. It's not good enough. And when you combine that with an inability to control the line of scrimmage, you're not going to win that many football games. And now they're going to get Georgia Tech. Let's talk about Anthony Russo. This was by far his worst performance I've personally ever seen. By no means does all the blame go on the shoulders of Anthony Russo. I think the offensive line getting beat by Buffalo's offensive line, I never expected that to be a factor. But the last time Anthony Russo threw 3 interceptions in one game was an overtime win in Cincinnati during last season. What was your take on Anthony Russo's performance?
Man, he was 7 for 8 to start, 18 for 43 in his next 43 throws.
Wow.
He could have had 5 interceptions. A couple of those balls, they were definitely interceptable passes, and just 2 I noticed. And the accuracy issues, timing. One of those fade routes, he overthrew his man. in Temple had the ball in Buffalo territory. It was right after Jalen Blue down. I think it was down the seam. He had that long throw to Jalen Blue, and like a couple plays later, or in that drive, Russo threw that an interception, and we're just not seeing especially like last week. I think he was 20 for 37 throwing. Consistency is an issue, and he can throw the fade, and he throws nice fade passes, has nice touch on them, but it's about consistency, and he's not showing it early at the moment. The past 2 weeks aren't indicative of that.
And so we went through the glaring red flags, right? Temple's inability to stop the run, not converting on third down, Anthony Russo's inconsistency, the special teams. Jake, should Temple fans be panicking about this loss? In the long term for this season, should we be comfortable? Should we be panicking? What's your take?
To a degree, yes. I think the Temple showed they're not BCS ready, and during the season those were their expectations. But if you're looking at offense, defense, and special teams, defensively, yeah, but Buffalo by no means is the most athletic offensive line, but they were able to create so much push and develop so many holes for Jared Patterson to run into. And Jared Patterson has really good balance, so credit him as well. But the defensive line is real, especially Quincy Roche, Zach Mesday, Dan Archibald. It's about, you have to help out Ifeanyi Maije there, and they're going to face good offensive lines, and they're not going to face. I think the panic level sets because their defense in like a vacuum is good. We saw it against Maryland. They have potential. But looking at the defensive line, this wasn't the performance that inspired much confidence. Offensively, I think you have to be a little concerned with Russo's ability to throw the intermediate routes. I know has a lot on his plate in this system, but accuracy is huge. It plays a part, and it goes hand in hand with third down conversions, and that's an issue. Is we and special teams as well, man. Like Adam Berry isn't right now. He doesn't inspire much confidence. Will Mobley, the kicker, as well, and you have to have a degree, because I mean, is Temple a bowl team? Yeah, I think they'll reach that level, but all three areas of the game, you see glaring question marks.
Yeah, I'm definitely panicking, and we talked about this on the last Temple preview, where Temple seems to play down against inferior competition. They have a history of it, and sure enough, it happened, man. We saw them, come off a huge Maryland game, and sure enough, they just came out so flat after that initial first offensive possession. Jake, we harped on all the negatives.
Yeah.
Tell me something positive you saw. Are there any positives that came from this Buffalo game?
Yeah, I really enjoy Brandon Mack's ability. I mean, this is a number one wide receiver for this team. A spread offense, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't have 1,000 yards receiving this year. 6'5". He caught two of Russo's. He caught two of Russo's touchdown passes. He shows great ability to extend his arms and pinpoint the ball, and he really stood out offensively for the Owls. And Chappelle Russell came in 9 tackles, tackle for loss. Temple's linebacker core is deep. Sean Bradley comes back this week against Georgia Tech. Those two guys really stood out for me.
I have two. My guy is Jaden Blue. Yet another very strong game by Jaden Blue on Saturday. He had 8 receptions, 87 yards. He's played one less game than his competition, but now he is 3rd in receptions and 3rd in yards in the American Athletic Conference. This guy, I think he's a sophomore. So I mean, just having a fantastic season. My second guy that I would enjoyed watching was Christian Braswell, making his second.
That one pick, yeah.
Yeah, dude. That pick in the first defensive possession was like eerily similar to Harrison Hand's interception in the Maryland game on that first defensive possession. That really set the tone. It didn't exactly translate, but give it up for Christian Braswell. Great job, buddy. Lastly, we have to talk about the American Athletic Conference. The other positive that came on Saturday was Temple got a huge break on Saturday but this had nothing to do with Buffalo. It had to deal with the Pittsburgh Panthers defeating the UC.
That's a positive?
That's a positive. Of course, it's a positive.
Okay. We're on the different sides here. Okay.
So, do you see that as a win or a loss, or like a missed opportunity? What's your take?
For America, the AAC as a whole, people were exclaiming possible top 10, top 12 consideration or top 10, top 12 standing for UCF, and to lose Pitt is no pushover, but nonetheless, UCF doesn't get that many chances to prove itself on a grand scale like that against the ACC, and I think they had the longest regular season winning streak come to an end, and just to have the gold standard of the conference lose to what is maybe a middling to above average team, the ACC. It just puts Boise State in the Mountain West. They look like the favorites now to get that group of 6 BCS spot. So UCF, they could have run the table this year. Temple, if they ran the table, they would have an undefeated UCF team come to them. If in the future this season, as UCF travels to Lincoln Financial Field, SMU win is big, but as a whole, I think the UCF win would have been cherry on the top.
Okay,
didn't occur.
All right, so you have UCF, Cincinnati, and Temple now each with one loss in the East. Temple is now 2-1. The Owls will face Georgia Tech on Saturday at 3:30. What is your confidence level heading into this revenge game with Jeff Collins?
I think it's going to be pretty tight. And I think we have a little bit of a larger scale now. We have 3 games to go over. We have a very productive outing from the Owls defense against Maryland. And then conversely, Buffalo unable to stop Jerry Patterson and that offense. Al Cole and Ron Carey was he lauded Georgia Tech's secondary, and this is Paul Johnson was Georgia Tech's coach, and they used to run option, but now they run read option. So we're seeing another read option team. I think Temple's going to be, and this I think Temple's seen this like read option system a little bit this year, so they're going to be more accustomed. They're going to be able to defend it, I think, a little bit better than if they're playing an option team. But over the season, I think like Saturday's loss didn't really like move the pendulum that much for me, but because it's either they beat Buffalo. They a little bit they boost their stock, but this loss kind of established that they have things to work out, and 8 or 9 win season, that's not out of the question. So I do think they'll try to hash out whatever they're going to try to work out. They're going to try to mitigate whatever issues they had this past week, and I think against Georgia Tech, it's going to be interesting because It's because both these teams, again, Georgia Tech lost against the Citadel, so it'll be a very interesting matchup. And I think the Owls have seen read option previously, so it's going to be a very contested game.
If you're listening, Sean Bradley, do not get hit for targeting during Saturday's game versus Georgia Tech. We need you, buddy. I'm confident. I think they're gonna get their shit together. I totally expect them to kind of come back, focused, come back prepared, especially on defense. That was not Temple tough defense that we're used to seeing the previous 2 weeks. I think we're going to see just a more fresh team come Saturday. I don't know what the heck was in that Buffalo water or what was going on in that game, but they just came out completely flat. This is a revenge game of sorts versus Jeff Collins. I think that's going to add a little extra motivation for our Temple Owls. Jake, what is your way too early prediction versus Georgia Tech?
I think it's going to be close. I think these teams are These teams are very, in terms of talent, they're very on the same level. I'm gonna go Owls 20. I don't trust it. I'm not 100% in their special teams right now, so I'm gonna go Owls 28, Georgia Tech 24. How about you, Chris?
Oh, I think you know what's gonna happen here. I will say Temple 35, Georgia Tech 31. It's going to be a little high scoring this time, but I think you're going to see a much improved Temple offense, defense. Not sure what to expect out of the special teams. Hopefully they limit the mistakes as much as possible. So make sure you follow all of our Temple coverage on the Blue Root TPL and the paintedlines.com. He is Jake Hyman. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at RealJakeHyman. So here we are. We have a huge game coming up on Saturday. Temple's going to right the ship. They're going to defeat Jeff Collins. And for my own personal sanity, Sean Bradley will play the entire game. Thanks for listening, guys. Oh, make sure to follow. You can find the Blue Root Pod on iTunes and Spotify. Please, please, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating. It helps us out so much. Thanks for listening, guys. Stay awesome. Go Owls!